everybody, and welcome to another episode of Insufficient Friends. I'm Kevin. She's Neggy.
Hi.
And Nick, I won't ask you how your week was because we're doing another week where we're doing two of these in a row. So we just, as you noticed, we didn't change because I'm not that motivated. So this is wearing the same outfit that I was last week because it's only been like 45 seconds for us.
That's okay. I think I've worn probably the same outfit more than the last 2 weeks because I only have 5 outfits out of my moving box. So we're still there.
There is nothing wrong with that at all. But anyway, this week we are talking about music again because we love history and we love music. And when you put the two together, we love old music. By the way, we're going to start with a tangent. Did you see, I was at work the other day, and I saw that REO Speedwagon is going to stop touring.
What?
We've seen REO Speedwagon.
How dare they get old and stop touring?
We've seen REO Speedwagon twice, right?
Yeah.
The two of us? Yeah.
That's not enough.
I've seen them 3 times, but yeah, I get it. Like, they're going to stop touring, which is sad. Earlier, just not that long ago, actually, Aerosmith announced they were going to stop touring too, which was sad too, because Aerosmith, Steven Tyler has had for years. He's had issues with his vocal cords, with his throat.
I saw that,
and he had to have another procedure a while back in the middle of their tour, and he's not apparently going to be able to do it anymore. So, or at the level that they want to. So they're going to hang it up as well, which stinks because all the bands that like, I mean, I like newer groups too because I do like, Bruno Mars, and I like some stuff from newer too. But a lot of the bands that I really enjoy that are like my favorite bands are all either retiring or dying. Which is sad.
Yeah, it's not allowed. I'd like to protest. I don't know what we can do, but I
can't really do anything. You can't really do anything. Oh.
But then again, so this is exactly why. So was it 2021 that we went to see the Eagles and everyone all in one year? I think it was, or 2022. It was right after COVID when they started touring again. Yeah. And I remember because we went to see so many classic rock all in one because I had an existential crisis about this. I was like, all the old people, this is going to be their last tour after COVID. They're all going to retire and die. So we went to see literally like 7 concerts. Or I mean, I did total in that year. At least 4 of those were with you, I think.
Yeah.
And because of that reason. So...
yeah, and they're all...
Can we, make them all immortal? I don't know. That would be nice.
And they are all kind of retiring. Like, we also saw Motley Crue, and their guitar player, Mick Mars, he was done. Yeah. I don't even think he finished that tour. I don't even know that he finished that tour.
He didn't. I think health issues, too.
Yeah, he's had health issues for years, which is, understandable. Yeah. Like, it's not...
And... I'm saying all this because it is sad that, someone you love to see touring and everything, but they also deserve to retire. I get that.
Yeah,
they deserve to retire.
For sure deserve to retire. But it's just, I just saw that the other day and I almost texted it to you, but it was like, 2 a.m. and I was like, we're not going to, we'll, and then I kind of forgot about it.
I was probably up. I was probably working.
but yeah, like that kind of made me sad because that's, another band that is going, kind of going by the wayside, which, I mean, you hope that their music lives on after them. So
I feel like an old person when I say this, but I hope that, people continue to listen to them. But it's already, we already see listeners decreasing for those bands in that era. So I'm like, oh my God, pretty soon I'm going to be an old grandma talking about back in the good old days. I listened to REO Speedwagon. Well, I feel like that already happens. My mom already does that. So
as an old grandma, you just have to teach your children and grandchildren to you just
Yeah.
have to have them grow up with that music so that they
I know.
hopefully
Like
will
my dad
enjoy it as
instilled
well.
it in me. My mom and dad
Exactly.
were very much
Yeah.
instilling that music in me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my parents did too. I remember, listening to Journey and stuff as a kid, in the car going
Yeah.
places, and I did change and get a little different stuff, but
Hmm.
it's still a lot of
Oh,
stuff that they
yeah.
like as well.
That's
So,
not to say I didn't go through a Justin Bieber phase, a One Direction phase, but throughout it all, the underlying phase, well, not a phase because I still love it, is the classic rock. That
yeah.
was and classic country, like 70s, 80s, and 90s country,
Okay.
was definitely like the underlying of my
Yeah.
childhood for sure, my raising.
So we're going to focus today on the icons of like the 60s and 70s.
Yeah,
Um, so you probably did more research on this than I did because I just am going off
a little bit.
the top of my shiny forehead dome here.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of going with that.
Hmm.
Um, I've been a I've loved music and I've been a music person for always.
Yeah.
And I feel like some people, you just talked about sounding like an old person, but there's literally people that I work with that are younger that are like, oh yeah, I don't really listen to that much music, and I'm like
Hmm.
what do you mean? Like that's I
I get it and I don't at the same time. Like during the day, I always have a TV show playing like in the background.
hmm
Like that's
yeah,
a TV
just
show
like some
for me.
background noise, yeah,
But like at night or driving or whatever else, like there's always music on.
yeah.
So I get it and I don't. Yeah. So I go both ways.
Yeah, I mean, I just love music so much, and I listen
I do too.
to
And I
stuff
like the
all the time.
culture, the history.
Yeah.
I mean, we're both history geeks. So when was, I didn't do a ton of research. It's not like I was sitting here for hours and hours, but I always like to look up just a couple little things about the decade, the era, what influenced the type of music, the
Mm-hmm.
culture. And so when I look at like the 60s and 70s and then the artists, I was looking at, okay, in the 60s, by then, most Americans had a TV in their living room.
Mm-hmm.
They were getting images now of war, poverty,
Mm-hmm.
racism, women's rights, nuclear threats, like more so than ever in the 60s, that was visible, which was probably mind blowing.
Oh yeah, I'm
Kind of
sure.
how, like nowadays with social media, everything
Yeah.
is there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that influenced a lot of the music too. So like that side of things, I love learning about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and throughout the 60s, I mean, it was such an influential decade. I mean, JFK becoming president,
Yep.
getting assassinated, Stonewall, Woodstock in
Mm-hmm.
the music world. So I like putting everything into like its context. When
Yeah.
we look back at it now, it's fascinating.
Oh yeah. Um, who who do you have as like
Hmm.
the icons, I guess, of that
Okay.
time?
So
I mean,
I
there's
have,
some that obviously I'm gonna be. We're both
yeah.
probably gonna be biased in this because there's certain music we
Oh,
like
for
and certain
sure.
music we don't.
Yeah.
But you know, let's just
Yeah.
hear. Yeah.
So the initial two I chose were Bob Dylan and Elvis.
Okay.
But then I added on this third one because I was like, I can't not, she needs to be in this, and that's Aretha Franklin.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So those are mine. So I'd probably kick Bob Dylan off and do Elvis and Aretha, like if I absolutely had to choose.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I mean, she's just got a fascinating, once again, the history, her
Yeah.
life, absolutely insane, crazy, inspiring, just wild. And then obviously Elvis, we all know a lot of Elvis's life too. So those are mine. Who did you choose?
So I'm gonna probably end up. I mean, I'm gonna end up being like a lot of people in this time in around is the Beatles, because
Hmm.
I mean, they for such a for how short of a span they were
Yeah.
around, for how little time they were actually a band and making music, they made a
Hmm.
lot of great music. Um,
Yes. Yeah. They were in all the stats of best selling of all time, like all the different
yeah.
highlights. So I knew you were going to choose them though. So I chose just two others that I liked.
um, yeah, because they were only active for 10 years. Like, it was
Yeah. It's
and
wild.
I don't even know how much of that was like, the big what you think of, but it's
Hmm.
it's just crazy. And then uh Elvis is obviously a major player in
Yeah.
music. I, for some reason, and maybe this is just me, I think of
Hmm.
Elvis more in the 50s. And I don't know why I
Yeah.
do, but I kind of think of Elvis more in the 50s,
Because
which
he's got
is,
that sound.
yeah, which is around the same
His
time that
sound is more
I
50s. Yeah.
also think of like Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin and stuff like
Hmm.
that too, which I think that was kind of that whole
Yeah.
time frame. That was when they were doing that kind of stuff. So I'm probably going. No surprise to anyone. I'm probably going to go to the Beatles and the Stones, because those two
Yeah.
were rivals, ish.
Hmm.
They're a lot. Um, yeah, they're just.
Yeah.
I mean, you had the British invasion going on at that time, so all those
Uh-huh.
guys coming over to the U.S. and bringing that kind
Yeah.
of pop rock music is
It was a
just.
really, really interesting time. And I knew you were going to go with the British invasion. So that's why I was looking up Aretha.
Yeah,
So I want to
which
talk
Aretha's
about
great
Aretha
too.
for a
So
little bit.
like,
So um, she had such a traumatic childhood and it influenced her music so much. Um, so her dad was a pastor. Her mother died when she was 10 from a heart attack. She had a baby at 13 and 14, like just absolutely crazy. And the babies were raised by her grandma. And then she went on tour with her dad basically to sing gospel music.
okay,
And then her career just skyrocketed from there. But I'm like, what a inspirational person and what a crazy time to live in
yeah,
and be a black woman in music. That's
yeah,
just, I mean, I have never seen something so inspirational. Anyways, I just thought it was so fascinating and I wanted to mention that like she was very much, you had the British invasion side of the music culture and um different like folk country, lots of music and the
hmm
rock, but then very much the soul and it's very, American soul and I love it. So I
yeah,
wanted to
and
talk through that
and
because she's just crazy. Yeah.
you talk about uh you talk about her touring with gospel and things, and
Hmm.
it is there's a lot of music that gospel brought to, there's a
Yes,
lot,
for sure.
it's got a big influence in, I mean, obviously Elvis was majorly influenced by gospel music,
Hmm.
and it's got a big influence in rock and roll, and it's also got a big influence in jazz now too, which, I
Yeah.
mean, I know jazz sometimes gets a bad rap and people think that it's boring and people think that it's
Hmm.
dull, but I mean,
I
it's
love
so
jazz.
much fun to
Yeah.
listen
I
to.
played
Like,
jazz,
huh?
played the saxophone.
Yeah,
So
it's so much
I
fun to
definitely
listen
have the
to.
appreciation for it.
It's amazing
Hmm.
how talented some of the musicians are, that they can just play what they do without ever thinking about it, and just
It's
improv
second
everything.
nature.
It's amazing.
It's just part of them at
Yeah.
that point, which is like music itself is so inspirational to
hmm
me. And when you have such talented people like that, like they are not, to me, it's like there's performers and then there's people who are just like, they are their music because they are so good. It comes so natural. Like
Yeah.
they are, I don't know a better way to say that, but it's just so fascinating. Music will always be one of the most inspirational things to me. It's
Yeah.
it's so crazy.
And I think
Yeah.
music also, I mean, even though there are some people who don't like it, which I'm not gonna say whether or not people like music less than they did back in the day or anything else, but
Hmm.
um, I I I think that music is something that a lot of people can connect to and can bring a lot of people together. So
Yeah, for
I think
sure.
it is something that's to be treasured, and
Yeah, I
and
appreciate the art of it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So would you? So we talked about also like icons and who you think is the most well known or iconic or something like that. Which I know I'm using icon or iconic a lot,
Hmm.
but is Aretha Franklin who you pick for that, or do you have somebody else too with that?
Are we talking just the 60s still?
Um, let's open this up because
Okay.
I have
Because I have some
somebody.
from the 70s too. I have two from the 70s, and then I have my all-time, like
Okay,
ever.
so I mean, if we're gonna go 70s, I'm obviously gonna pick the Eagles
Hmm.
because I love the Eagles.
I knew you
Um,
would. I knew it. I knew you would.
well, come on. I mean,
Freaking Eagles.
I love the
I do
Eagles.
love them. They're so good. I am so glad that I got to go with you to see them.
Yeah, it was
Because I'd
awesome.
never seen it before. I know you've seen them a bajillion times, but
I
um,
had only seen them 3 times before that.
okay, well that's a bajillion in my book.
But
But
anyway,
yeah, I knew you were gonna.
I
Who's so? Is that who you would pick as
no,
your icon of the '70s?
probably of the 70s, yes, but it's
Yeah,
not who I'm gonna say is
all
who has the
time.
most well known
Okay,
music of all time.
okay. So for me, when I was looking at '70s
Mm-hmm.
music, I no, I wanted okay, so context of the 70s because I love this. Um the Vietnam War, Watergate, like of course before I even looked at the music, I looked at what was going on in the United States
Yeah.
because again, it's kind of like we talked in last episode. We know things that happen in the United States, but if it's not talked about in society, you only learn it once at school and then move on. Like
Yeah.
it's not really something that's top of mind for you. So I love reading about the Vietnam War, Watergate, the energy crisis, the Iran hostage crisis, like
Yeah.
all the things that were going on in the 70s. So
And all of that
very
stuff
interesting.
influenced music. I mean, Vietnam
Yeah.
obviously influenced a ton of music with protest
Hmm.
music and music in support of the troops I mean, there's so
Yeah.
many different things that
Yeah.
yeah.
And then another big one was like women's rights, gay rights, and everything. So Queen was
Mhm.
my first choice.
Okay, Queen is awesome.
Because I do love Freddie Mercury.
Yes.
Um, so that was my first, like, my iconic of the 70s. And then my second was Fleetwood Mac.
That makes sense. I'm
I
not
just love
surprised with that.
Fleetwood Mac.
I will second Queen. I will
Yeah.
totally second Queen. I mean, the Eagles is my um
Hmm.
is one of my biases, I
Yeah.
guess is
I
what you
know.
would say, because I love them. Elton John is also one that I would put in there because he's
I figured you would choose
amazing.
him.
So
Yeah.
there's so much great music from that
So
time,
much.
60s,
Yeah.
70s, 80s, all that. And there's still good music being made today too. Like it's not I'm
Hmm.
not disparaging. Like
Oh, I love a lot of modern music too. But it goes back to I appreciate the art of it and the
mhm,
songwriting.
yeah.
So, I do love more mainstream artists like Taylor and
Mhm.
Harry because they spend so much time on the lyrics, the production, the
Mhm.
song. So I do love a lot of modern music too.
Yeah. Okay, so
Anyways.
we've gone through some of that. So who would
Hmm.
you say is the most well known of all time? Like, if
Yeah.
maybe even you don't know their name, because
Hmm.
I will almost guarantee you most people will not know the name of who I'm gonna pick, but they'll
Yeah.
know the music. So who do
Hmm.
you think would be this?
I don't know who you're going to name. And I was trying so hard to think of this and find it, but I don't know who you're going to say it is. Who I would, if you were to ask me, like, who do you think is the best artist of all time?
Mm-hmm.
Just if that was the question, I would say the Beatles.
Okay.
Um,
I don't.
because
I
they're
get that because
Yeah.
there's a
So
lot
that
of.
would be my answer for that. Are they my favorite? No, I love their music. Don't get
Mhm.
me wrong. But if you were to phrase the question as like, who do you think is the best of all time? I would say the Beatles. But that's not necessarily most well known. I was trying so hard to think of an answer for most well known,
So
and I don't know.
the Beatles are a great choice, I think, because they have so many different genres that
Mm-hmm.
they performed in with pop, rock, psychedelic. Like they kind of went through a bunch of different things. And again, they had a ton of music that they put out in such a short time span. And
Yeah.
fun Disney fact: the Beatles broke up at Disney World.
Really?
Yes,
I didn't know that.
which is sad, but it
Yes,
is
it
what it is.
is.
Um,
Tainted
yeah,
history.
tainted history. So that's I guess I'll have a different fact for the fact bomb, but that's what
Yeah.
we've got there. So anyway, um, musician who I am going to say is I don't think you're going to know his name, but I
Hmm.
do think you'll know his music, and I think everybody around the world knows his music and
Okay.
can point to it even if they don't know him. So,
Yeah.
his name is John Williams. Do you know who John Williams is?
That sounds really familiar.
He's a film composer.
Yeah. Okay, I do know that name. Hmm.
Okay. Do you know any of the things? Can you name me any of the things that
No,
he's
not off the
worked
top
on?
of my head.
Okay. So I'm gonna start at the. I'm gonna start with the list. Okay.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we've got Fiddler on the Roof. We've
Yeah.
got Jaws, Star Wars,
Yeah.
E.T.,
Yeah.
Schindler's List,
Yeah.
Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Indiana Jones, Jurassic Park, Saving Private Ryan, War Horse, Superman, Home Alone, and Harry Potter.
Yeah. Okay, then I would
How?
totally agree with you that those
Yes.
are the most
So
well
like
known.
the Imperial March
Yeah.
from Star Wars, that's him. Like
Yeah.
he wrote that. The iconic
Hmm.
songs that of those movies that I just mentioned, when you hear the theme song from Jaws, that dun dun,
Yeah.
everybody knows what
Everyone
that
knows what it
is.
is.
Yeah, everybody knows what that is.
Hmm.
Even if you even people who maybe haven't seen Jaws know that tune.
Yeah. And
So
same with Star Wars too.
and
I
same
feel
with
like you know
Star
that.
Wars. Like
Yeah.
you know that is a thing, or like the Jurassic Park theme song. Like those,
Yeah.
there's so many songs that he's written that are
Yeah.
iconic, and people
That's a
don't
really, really good answer. And yeah, as soon as you said
realize.
John Williams, I was like, I swear to God, I know that name.
He
So
also
that makes total sense. That's very interesting.
he also wrote the theme song for Sunday Night Football. So anybody who's a football fan knows that theme song on NBC.
Yeah.
He
Hmm.
he took other works to create um, the music that we still use for the Olympic Games. So the music that you hear, that
Oh,
trumpet stuff that you hear when the Olympics are
yeah.
on, that's partly he took inspiration from other places, but that's partly done from him. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's there's a ton of things that he has done.
That's
He
cool.
has the second most Academy Award nominations at 54.
Hmm.
He has 26 Grammys. Um, he has 5 Academy Awards, 7
Wow.
BAFTAs, 3 Emmys, and 4 Golden Globes.
Wow. Yeah, that's a ton. Because I was pulling some stats of some different artists, and even like Dolly Parton, who is up there for most amount of Grammys, only has 11 Grammys.
Hmm.
Because I was looking at how many, because I was thinking of different things you're going to ask. I was like, is he going to ask me who's written the most songs? Because like Dolly's written over 2,000.
Hmm.
So I was looking at different stats. So 26 Grammys, that's crazy.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can find a list here that tells me who has the most, or if there's a list to say
Yeah,
who.
because I found some other interesting things. So, best-selling artist is the Beatles, 420 million
Yeah.
equivalent album sales.
Hmm.
Michael Jackson was 85 million behind, and then Elvis was barely behind him.
Hmm.
But so the best-selling solo artist of all time is Michael Jackson. Best-selling female artist Madonna, and Celine Dion is a very close second. And then Taylor Swift is really closing in on Celine Dion, which is just wild historically. That is so cool to
Yeah.
think that, someone who is considered one of the greatest in music are these two people, Madonna and Celine, and that Taylor's closing in is awesome. And then it just said the current top artist, Drake, Taylor Swift, and Bad Bunny worldwide, and BTS.
Okay.
So I just thought that was interesting. I like looking at stats too.
Yeah. So most Grammys is Beyonce with 32.
Wow. Yeah.
John Williams is tied for 6th behind Sir
Interesting.
Gregor.
Who's second and third?
Sir Gregor Salty has 31. Quincy Jones has 28. That's third.
Interesting.
Alison Krauss and Chick Corea are tied for 4th, and then Pierre.
Oh, I know Alison Krauss. Yeah.
Boulez, I'm probably butchering these, and John Williams are tied for 6th. So I don't know who Sir. He's a Hungarian operatic conductor, so opera. That's probably why I don't.
Yeah, I only knew Beyonce, Alison Krauss, and John Williams then, I think, from what you just read.
So
interesting.
Yeah. So there you go. 26 Grammys. And again, like, obviously Beyonce's won more, but and I know Beyonce's music is iconic. You know, people know a lot of songs by her as well, and people know a lot of songs by the Eagles. I think John Williams is one that is
his music is most well known for sure.
His music
is
most well known because and it transcends a lot of things because it's been in so many movies that have played to people around the world. And I think, I think there's a lot of it that you hear it and you know immediately what it is. So,
oh, for sure.
And, I got this idea from a music, YouTube channel that I, watch that is, really good. Rick Beato. He's I think I've talked about him on here before. He's a former, he's a music producer. I want to say former, but I'm not gonna. I don't know for sure because I don't think he really does it anymore. But and a former music teacher, like college music professor. So, and he talked about that, and it was an interesting thing that I agree with after like thinking about it.
Yeah, I would too. So. If you phrase it as most well known for his music, 100%. I would agree with that.
So,
yeah.
Anyway, I think it is time for facts. And Nick, what is your fact for this week?
Okay, I have two. I have one for the 60s and one for the 70s.
Okay.
So for the 60s, on February 9th, 1964, the Beatles first performed before a U.S. audience on the Ed Sullivan Show.
I watched that.
And that aired to 75 million viewers, which is roughly estimated 3/4 of the total audience in America that had TVs at that time.
Nice.
Which is crazy. So almost everyone that owned a TV was watching the Beatles perform.
Yeah.
Wild.
I say and that I watched that. I'm not that old. Not that old. But
you've seen that.
I have seen that. One of my my history teacher in middle school was a huge music lover and a big Beatles fan. And I don't remember what was going on, but there was something going on where a bunch of kids were out of class for like field trips or something. I don't remember exactly what was going on, but there was several days where we just watched the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show. And he was,
that's funny.
That teacher was a bunch of fun because like he would do his lecture and then we would do homework or work on work or whatever, and he would play music. He had like a stereo in his room, so he would play like the Jackson 5 and like the Beatles and all kinds of stuff. It was so much fun. I loved that class. Mr. Shikani was freaking awesome.
We're from different generations. We're not different generations, just we're a couple years apart. I had a math teacher that would play Gangster's Paradise.
Nice.
As we were doing work.
Okay.
Very different.
Okay. Okay.
I love it.
Yeah.
Anyways, so that was my fun fact from the 60s. And then from the 70s, So, July 1st, 1979, Sony launched the Walkman, the first portable music player. Um, and literally just because one of the co-founders wanted to walk around and listen to music. And so 1979 was when the Walkman was released.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. I had a Discman. Did you have a Discman? Discman? It was like the
I
predecessor.
had a portable CD player
Yeah, it was that. It
that your
was
headphones
just
plugged into.
yeah. It was Sony's version of that because the Walkman was so popular. They called it the Discman.
Oh, okay. I had just like a cheap.
Okay.
I think it was actually Disney, like a Disney portable CD player from Walmart. I think that I played my CDs on.
Okay. So I will. My fact is going to be about John Williams again. I mentioned that he has 5 Academy Awards. He has 54 Academy Awards nominations. Okay?
Oh,
That is
okay.
that is the second most of any individual person. And he
Ooh.
is the oldest Oscar nominee in any category at the age of 92 years old, which is
Wow.
how old he is now. So he is a current Oscar, or he was an Oscar nominee, I guess, last year.
Wow.
So, can you guess who the only person with more Oscar nominations than John Williams? Can you guess? Do you think you can guess this? Single
Oscars
person.
is movies.
Oscars is movies. Academy Awards is
Oh,
movies.
then no. Wait, what are the Academy? What's the difference? Academy Awards and Oscars?
It's the same thing. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Science is the name of the organization. The Oscars is just the trophy. So they call it the Oscars.
Okay.
The Academy Awards, the Oscars, it's the same thing. It's just the way you want to say it.
Okay.
But it's the same
I
thing.
don't think maybe I'll know, but I won't know off the top of my head.
Well, think about me personally. This should be a pretty easy hint. Think about this guy right here.
Is this going to be a test of our friendship and you're going to hate me if I don't get it right?
No, I won't hate you at all. But just think about what this person loves a lot. And who is behind all of that stuff.
Walt Disney?
Yep. Walt Disney.
Was that right?
Walt Disney has the most Oscar nominations.
We can still be friends.
It doesn't say how many, because obviously I'm not on the Walt Disney page. But
yeah.
I can click on it and see, I guess, can't I? Yeah, so it's awards and honors. Here we go. Oh, it doesn't actually tell me. But
that's interesting, though.
Oh, he has 59,
I definitely would not have thought of that.
59 Academy Award nominations. So not that many, 5 more.
Yeah.
So
I definitely would not have thought of that off the top of my head. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah. But anyway, music, we love it. And we had fun talking. I had a lot of fun talking about music, and I had a lot of fun this week. So
I was too.
I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. I think that's the end for us this week. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment. Nick, your dog is under your feet or something. I saw it walking around. I saw Millie's tail over there. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment. It really helps us out. And we'll talk to you next week.
Bye.